Hi there, Elevated Planet community. This is John Drew here from Elevated Planet, and I'm here with Mr. Chris Stiles from 365 Pin Code. Hi, Chris. How are you doing?
Hello, John. Very well, thanks. Lovely to be back.
Yeah, and it's great to be back with you again as well, Chris. I always love our conversations. I always learn a great deal. And today, give me a little clue about where we're going with this today.
Well, John, today is a very interesting topic in that it brings relationships into play. Now, why would I have chosen relationships? Because we are in a number 6 universal year. 2022, 2 plus 0 plus 2 plus 2 totals 6. That's how we know we're in a number 6 universal year. And the number 6 deals with relationships, responsibility, family, home, and matters of the heart and community. This is why, if we look at what is going on around us during the first 6 months, suddenly we are seeing incredibly strained relationships. We're seeing relationships that existed breaking down. We're seeing new relationships being forged. And this was only in the first 6 months of the year, as we are about to go into June. It's in the second half of this year, from July through to December, that things are really, really going to heat up in the space. And so during that time, we will see everything to do with relationships massively coming into the spotlight. So here we're talking global relationships, political relationships, interpersonal relationships, family relationships, marital relationships, even intrapersonal relationships, which is the relationship that you have with yourself and how you think about and view yourself. So given that we have, if you will, been through the 6 to 8 foot waves of 2022 in terms of the emotional aspects of relationships and all of those various things, and that we're now heading into the real tsunami, I thought it was incredibly apt for us to focus on relationships during this chat, and also more specifically to bring in a very, very interesting dimension in terms of some of the most painful relationships that we have in our life, and also the most joyful ones, do not actually happen by accident. They are hard-coded into our intelligent mathematical blueprint. And I will be presenting mind-blowing data to you during the session. And interestingly enough, the case study that I've chosen is the one that is so incredibly topical at the moment, and that is Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. This relationship that was just incredible love at first sight, couldn't keep their hands off each other, now into a real war within the courts. And how could something that was so amazing and magical turn so south and become so sour? And I will reveal exactly why this is, using Amber Heard's intelligent mathematical blueprint. And it really is going to be mind-blowing information. And the reason I'm doing this, John, is to position to you, and thereby the Elevated Planet audience, that relationships in our life are actually coded when they begin and when they end. And therefore, these are not random events. And I think the most important thing here is to open your mind to the fact that people that come into your life in order to create some of the most significant relationships in your life. For example, we take our mom and our dad, for example. That's one of the most significant relationships, brothers and sisters. All of these relationships actually are there to teach us something. And hence the saying, you can choose your friends, but you can't choose your family. And that is invariably because family relationships are so incredibly painful, strained, difficult to process. And it is actually because within these very, very close-knit, if I can call them soul groups, exist lessons and learnings, sometimes on a very brutal level, that we have to experience, process, and understand this lifetime, because that's part of the contract that we have with ourselves and with these people.
Yes, yeah, and it's fascinating actually, because I mean, I remember when we had our last discussion, and this was kind of looking at the relationships on a political basis, right? And a lot of that was fascinating as to how that was playing and is playing out still, and will continue to play out. And certainly, I do remember from when you did my personal mathematical blueprint as well, how, from a relationship perspective, those dates truly did marry up, as it were, as to when key events were taking place. So, you know, I'm fascinated to see how this looks.
Well, John, if I can diverse for a second, and I think this is a wonderful topic for us to discuss at a future date, maybe in the not too distant future, because guaranteed there is an enormous amount that is going to happen in the next 6 months of this year. I think we are going to experience turmoil on a level that just cannot be fathomed or even processed yet. And one of the things that I have taken a great interest in is the World Economic Forum, recently hosted in Davos, where all the billionaires jet in to discuss issues with heads of state around the world, and the economic and the monetary status of the world, as well as numerous other things, food security. It was very interesting that there was a group which had Bill Gates in it, which focused on what to do when the next pandemic strikes, not if the next pandemic strikes, when the next pandemic strikes. So one's got to pay a lot of attention to the words that are being used. And on the back of this, I did an enormous investigation into the life path and intelligent mathematical blueprint of Klaus Schwab, who is the founder and currently the leader of the World Economic Forum. And he's obviously got a certain points of view, which is very much around globalization. And he's been supported tremendously by a lot of top politicians around the world. But as I put his numbers together, and I start to put the numbers together of other very important people and influencers, like Hillary Clinton, like Obama, et cetera, what I'm seeing is I am seeing absolute chaos starting to erupt in these people's lives next year. And this is extraordinarily interesting because where all of this is headed is, if there is some master plan or some great plan that is being put in place, controversially so, maybe keeping the billions of people around the world in the dark as to what the real agenda is, and running smoke screens through the likes of COVID, et cetera, this all starts to go wrong for these people next year. Now, remember, I'm saying if they are doing this, if this is what they are up to, if they have a much deeper, almost if you could call it deep state agenda that is being run in the background, and they're keeping us all wonderfully entertained and misled through all these various distractions, then it's going to start going wrong next year. Things are going to start surfacing. And the reason I say this is because number 7, which is 2023, is the year of soul searching. And this is when people start to search for new truths. Now, the only way that people can begin to search for new truths is on the back of an understanding that what you have lived or are living is a lie.
Right.
So, because you can't search for a new truth unless you are aware that something has gone wrong, or that you've been lied to, or that you have been living an untruth. So this is why I'm saying, and the article actually exists on our website, chrisandsuzannestyles.com. So anybody interested just needs to open up that website, chrisandsuzannestyles.com, and there they'll find the very detailed blog that I've done on Klaus Schwab and all the political figureheads, including George Soros, the billionaire, the massively influential billionaire, And what I'm seeing in their lives going forward is a real train smash, and it's a collective train smash. So something is going to go very, very wrong on a global level. And I guess what I'm alluding to is if the likes of political leaders and medical authorities like Fauci, et cetera, if they have been leading us up the garden path, if with untruths, this is going to start to unravel very soon. And with it unraveling very soon, John, what you've got to understand is it is going to open up a can of worms for a good number of years. I mean, I'm talking about through to the rest of the end of the cycle, which is 2025, the number 9 universal year, and running beyond that. So we could potentially see very, very interesting times over the next couple of years with world leaders, and I say this, top politicians, people who have been trusted, who have received millions of votes from supporters, potentially being exposed for very, very, very devious things, all of which have been done to keep the population of this earth under tremendous control. And also they'll be potentially exposed for the lies that they have been feeding us. So I use the word if, John, but there is no doubt that in the numbers, I am seeing something which reveals a cataclysmic event in many of the most respected world leaders' lives. And this tells me that there's something massive coming. What it is, I can't quite say, but believe you me, it's huge.
Well, you know, Chris, I've done a lot of research, certainly over these last few years, and it's been more accelerated in recent times as well. And, you know, everything you say there makes total sense to me. I'm fascinated by this because I feel this is something that has to happen, because I've been shocked personally, because I've never been a conspiracy theory kind of person. I've always believed that, you know, this is what I see is what's going on. And what has been uncovered to me, like by doing this research, is staggered, and it's shocked me, to be honest with you. And it
you see, John, let's just pause there for a moment, because the thing is, if you take the world of mystics and psychics and all of this, they can potentially go live and they can say, I see something, or I feel something, or there's something that is coming to me as a vision or my intuition. But the thing is, there's nothing that can actually be presented as hard evidence. Therefore, they are immediately discredited, and they're considered to be nut jobs, or people that are bringing woo-woo science to the table. Now, what I am bringing to the table for the first time ever, and yes, I am using numerology principles to deliver this, but remember, I'm using numerology as a tool. I'm actually not a numerologist. I'm a research scientist who's specializing in human futurology, which is understanding humans and the future of humans, and how we are put together in terms of a mathematical construct using numerology principles as a tool.
Yeah.
Now, the thing is, John, because I'm starting to present this compelling evidence, which cannot be argued against. John, the numbers are right. Maybe every now and again, my interpretation of them is wrong. And, you know, yes, I do get some things wrong from time to time, because I'm actually the only person in the world at the moment that is doing this research into human futurology. Not future using technology or whatever, human futurology. The mathematical blueprint of John Drew, of Chris Stiles, of Ghislaine Morton, of Barack Obama, of Hillary Clinton, of George Soros, etc., of Boris Johnson, of Keir Starmer. But the thing is, John, how is it that I have discovered this? And the question I'm asking is, I've stumbled across this. It took me many, many years to work this out. I realized that I had a gift and ability to look at numbers and patterns and see things in a different dimension. But John, are you telling me that I am the only person that is aware of this, or have I maybe, through this intelligent mathematical blueprint research that I've blown the lid off, have I maybe actually stumbled upon something that is actually already very well known, but only in certain circles? Why is it, John, that some of the most powerful and influential people in this world are absolutely obsessed with numerology and numbers? Why?
Absolutely.
What do they know? What do some of the most secretive, most powerful people in this world know that we don't know? And you know, this is where I'm heading, because it's very easy to get wrapped up in your ego and think, oh, I'm something different, I'm this, I'm that, blah, 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 and start blowing smoke up your backside. But the truth of the matter is, have I maybe just not started to make public, because I'm intrigued by this and I want people to know, something that has been kept from us for a very long time, yet is very, very well known and documented.
Yes.
That we have an intelligent mathematical blueprint, that we are actually an intelligent, organized design, that our lives are not just happening according to random happenstance. And I know we've spoken about this before, John, but the more I work on this, the more I just keep on thinking, what on earth has been kept from us by governments, by political leaders, by massively influential church authorities like the Vatican, etc., etc. What has been kept from us, and why?
Well,
who gives these people the right to keep this from us?
This is very, and you know, I've had a couple of recordings that I've done with Jolie recently, and she's asked that very same question about the Vatican as well. She's fascinated by whatever is down there, whatever is hidden. You know, and as you say, whether it's a religious control, whether it's political control, whether it's just pure wealth and power control, this is where these are the people who are pulling the strings. And this is what has become apparent. And what you say does resonate with me, because having looked at this very closely myself, and I'm strictly an amateur at this, but at the end of the day, having looked at this very closely, I have every suspicion is stronger than suspicion that there has been a lot hidden to keep us small, right? To keep the population under control.
Correct.
If this is what is going to be emerging over these next few months, then that is going to be one of the best things that can happen, but it will shock people. It will kind of shake people out of their version of reality. And you can imagine this is why the grief energy is going to be strong on the planet, which I understand is going to be the case. Now, there's the other thing that's good about this as well, is that, you know, you're here putting this on a pedal, you're putting yourself out there right now, and you are stating these things. Now, it's easier to say, okay, well, if you get into 2023 and life is carrying on as normal, nothing has happened, then effectively, you know, that kind of discredits this conversation, right? But at the end of the day, this is the thing to do. It's approaching it with integrity and honesty and belief in what you're doing. And as you say, it's impossible to know exactly what everything means. You can see the pattern, you can see the shape of what's coming up, but you can't say exactly like, oh yeah, this is going to happen on that day, then it's going to be this thing. But at the same time, you can see that this is going to be significant, and this is going to be, you know, this is going to change the world we live in.
Well, John, also the reason I feel compelled to do these interviews with you and to put out the information that I'm going to be sharing with you shortly, which proves beyond reasonable doubt that Johnny Depp was Amber Heard's karmic lesson. And you will even see the karma starting from the very moment they started dating and ending next year. And it's not random. It's in this blueprint that I have created. And John, the reason I have done this is because I see the world differently. And for many years, I honestly thought that I was a bit of a whack job. I struggled to fit in areas of society. I'm very happy to talk to people and to chat to them if there is a reason to do so. But social gatherings just honestly are beyond me. I can't really understand the purpose of them. And there was so much of my life that I was completely unable to make sense of until coming across to the UK, relocating last year from South Africa. And through the NHS and through the doctors on the NHS, finally being referred to one of the leading experts in the UK on Asperger's, a lady by the name of Elaine Nicholson. I mean, absolutely brilliant, brilliant woman. And I have recently worked with her, and she has confirmed that I have Asperger's and that I am autistic. And suddenly, I can understand why I see the world so differently. I'm not a mathematical genius by any stretch of the imagination, but I understand numbers and I see patterns. And when numbers are put together in a certain pattern, they tell me a very powerful story about a person and a person's life. And other people can't see this, but I can, and I connect with it so quickly and so powerfully. And you know, John, like with this Amber Heard chat that we're going to have now, I was just sitting there today, you know, thinking about this year and how it's going to get really intense, and we're going to see relationships explode across the board. It suddenly just rocketed into my world that I need to go and build Amber Heard's chart. And I went and did it. And as I built her chart, there it was. There was the perfect material for today's discussion. Now, the thing is, John, you know, where are these ideas just coming from? Because they just rocket into my head. And if they rocket into anybody else's head, that person would firstly reject them, or they would actually think, hold on a moment, that was a serious brain fart I just had. You know, what went wrong? Whereas for me, they are intellectual nuggets that have got to then go be explored, etc., etc. And so that's what I do, and that's how I work. And I know I'm incredibly different. I see the world differently. I experience the world very differently. I do struggle to fit in. But the thing is, my ability to see patterns within numbers and work with numbers and interpret numbers in a way that relates to people and their life journey inspires me to such a degree that I'm very grateful to you and platforms like Elevated Planet to be able to share this, because every person across the world, all 8 billion of them, need to know and understand that they actually have an intelligent mathematical blueprint that is as unique as their thumbprint. And inside of this is the most incredible, incredible journey, and that things are not random accidents. Like Amber Heard and Johnny Depp, it was not a random accident. As I say, the data I'm going to show you, John, is going to blow you and your viewers' minds, because it is empirical evidence of the fact that everything about her and Johnny Depp's relationship was karma, and that he was the mechanism through which a massively significant lesson was going to be delivered into her life, and John, vice versa. Let's not forget that. She was also going to deliver a massively significant lesson into Johnny Depp's life. Quid pro quo.
Yeah, no, it's great. I'm looking forward to getting into this. And one of my central premises that I work on now is, you mentioned this earlier, it's kind of like your life path. It's all about the fact that the intelligent blueprint that you come across, one of the things I truly understand is that we do have a life path. Before we come down here, we know what that's going to be. We forget it all at birth, but then it's for us to unfold it over time and then find our path, have our lessons that we have set for ourselves, right? My personal belief, knowing you as I do, Chris, is that you are here on this planet with your condition because very few people can do what you do with the degree of focus that you apply and the degree of passion that you put into it. Very few people. And I think that, and it was interesting because I was reading a book today, and I interviewed Miguel Mendonça over a week ago, and I'm getting that video down as well. And he's pulled together a lot of different information. And one of the things that we're talking there is that there was a very specific research scientist there who had identified a change on the planet to the way that there's a very specific genetic code that comes up every on a regular basis, has done for thousands and thousands of years, it has just come back in. And but he also said that part of this is a high level of intelligence, but also autism is actually quite prevalent within this genetic code as well. But it turns up at a certain point, and now the unfortunate thing about it, that was like deemed to be the early 2000s when that was starting off. And the pattern is within 20 to 30 years, there is typically a big war where a lot of people will die. I don't like to think of that being the way ahead, but I mean, things shape up in a certain way. I'm going to park that for now, but we'll get it back into the original discussion. But I thought I'd throw that in there because that interested me. It was only today that I was hearing very specific information relating to that, but it goes back ultimately a pattern over many thousands of years from somebody who was had the ability to research things using the entire US military database of information on archaeology and everything else that was available at the time, albeit that the report has ultimately been seemingly suppressed, but that information was out there. Anyway, I digress.
No, John, not at all. And these are healthy conversations. And once again, well done to you and Elevated Planet for being bold and brave enough to interview somebody like myself and give me a platform to be able to put what it is that I'm discovering and developing along with my wife and business partner, Suzanne Stiles. I'm very grateful for her because she kind of takes care of life, which I'm pretty useless at, but I'm pretty good at seeing and interpreting number patterns, and I know that they're right.
Yes.
And if you just think about how this world can change on the back of people being made aware that they have an intelligent mathematical blueprint, because the moment you start to understand the lines of mathematical code that are dominating each of our years, you can begin to start looking at your life through a completely new, different or set of eyes in terms of risk, personal risk, professional risk, etc., even karmic risk, spiritual risk. Anyway, let's, John, I prepared a couple of slides for today's talk, just so that your audience can actually exactly what it is that I am referring to. I hope that it will help tremendously. And I know you've got them there, and this is exclusively to do with Amber Heard. And if it's possible for you to call them up.
How about that?
There we go. Well done, John. So the opening slide of the pack basically just brings her full birth name into play, Amber Laura Heard, and that she was born on the 22nd of April, 1986. Now, it's very interesting that she's born on the 22nd because that brings in the master number 22. And the master number 22 is her personal energy, and it's a very, very, very powerful energy because it's the energy of the master builder. The number 2 is also the essence of femininity. So she's got that doubled up over there. So therefore, no wonder she is, such an incredibly, gorgeous woman and very, very pleasing to look at. But the most important thing is bringing her number 22 into play. Talks about the master builder and how the master builder should operate, and that is building and achieving much with and through people. And that brings relationships into play, because you can't achieve much through people if you're useless at interpersonal relationships. And the number 2 is all about cooperation, collaboration, peace, harmony, etc., etc., etc. So if she goes about her life in a way where most of her relationships are strained, she's in a space where she's not able to honor the gift of the master number 22, which is to achieve tremendous things whilst here on this earth. Take, for example, Sir David Attenborough, he's got a 22 life path. Take, for example, Donald Trump, 22 life path. Take, for example, Bill Gates, 22 life path. But that's going to be an interesting one, especially in a couple of years' time. I've published an article on him and his life path in 365pincode.com. Oprah Winfrey, 22 life path. So these are people that can achieve an enormous amount in their life if they are aligned to what the number 22 energy represents. The thing about the number 22 is that the dark or the shadow side of the number 22 is that instead of being engaging, it's actually controlling. So that is the lower octave, which is the number 4. 22, 2 and 2 is 4. And the number 4 energy is all about law and order, control. Things have to be done my way. People, for example, people born on the 4th or the 13th or the 22nd or the 31st, it would probably be fairly fitting to say that they are in a good space when they're working with others, as long as what the others are doing is according to the way they want it done. Hence, so think of the number 4 as a very controlling energy.
Yes.
And that's the point that I want to get across as we move into the next slide. If we can just scroll down, John. Thank you. Here we see her birth chart. Now, there's a lot of information in the chart. It's what I use for the human-futurology mathematical modeling that I do. But the most important thing here for your viewers to extract from this chart is that she's up at the top in the middle. She's born on the 22nd, which gives her a number 4 energy in the person. She's born in the month of April, which gives her a number 4 energy in the family or the intimate space. If we go down and you have a look at that purple block or pink block, there it is. Thank you, John. We can see that her shadow life path is karmic 13-4. Again, it brings in the number 4. So when we look at Amber Heard's birth chart, what do we see? We see a lot of 4s. A 4 energy in the emotional life path or the shadow life path, TSS LFP, a 4 energy in the family, which is being born in the month of April, and a 4 energy in the person because she's born on the 22nd. Therefore, you are dealing with someone who naturally has a very controlling energy.
Right.
They like to be in control, and they will quite often manipulate circumstances such that they can be in control. Now, the number 4 energy it's a very practical energy. It's an earthed energy. It deals with focus. It deals with planning. It deals with systems and processes and procedures and order. It's also the number of law and order. So look at that. And I always, whenever I'm working with clients, I always say, think of the number 4 energy as a brick, like a brick through a window. It's an energy, it's practical, it's hard, it's got very sharp, hard edges. It gets things done, but when you cross the number 4 energy, there is no energy alive which is more ruthless than that.
Right.
Okay, so I present that not to paint her in a bad light, but just to be able to reveal some of the core numbers in her intelligent mathematical blueprint through her date of birth. And obviously, being born on the 22nd of April, 1986, if we add all of those numbers together, we get 2012. And 2012 would be her karmic year. And if you add the numbers within 2012 together, it gives you number 5. So she's got a 5 life path. And the 5 life path is all about adrenaline, freedom, living life large, adventure, risk, etc., etc. Living life large through the 5 senses.
Right.
Okay. And also never accepting the status quo. So with all the 4s and 5s in her life chart or her birth chart, it brings the number 4, which is this very practical, hard energy into play, but it also brings the number 5 energy, which loves to play, it loves adrenaline, it loves the limelight, etc., etc., etc. And it's if you will, the number which thrives off social setting.
Mm.
Okay, so that just introduces the number 4 and the number 5 energy, with her having the number 6 energy as her career number, being born in 1986. That's it, John. Well done. I can see your cursor there. So the key numbers in her chart are 4, 5, and 6. Right, now let's move down to the next chart, please. This is called a Pythagoras square. And if we take her date of birth and we break it up into the various elements, how many 1s, 2s, 3s, 4s, 5s, 6s, 7, and 8 she's got, and we populate this 3 by 3 matrix, and then we look for either lines of solid numbers or zeros that are either vertical, horizontal, or diagonal, what we see is that she has only one birth arrow, which is the arrow that connects the 3, the 5, and the 7. Now, that is a very rare arrow. It's called the arrow of the inquirer. And this arrow is immediately indicative of someone that is extraordinarily curious, very inquisitive, always wants to know more. But also, John, I mean, having built and analyzed thousands of charts, you know, one thing I know, because I also possess this arrow of the inquirer, as did very interestingly Professor Stephen Hawking from Cambridge,
right.
The genius physicist. It is an extraordinarily intelligent number. So it's a number that picks up very, very, very quickly on things and loves to work with information and detail. So never, ever, ever, whenever you see somebody, if you map their Pythagoras square and you see the arrow of the inquirer present, don't ever, ever underestimate the intelligence of that individual. You know, they have a mind like a steel trap, and their mind often works at the speed of light. So that tells you that Amber Heard is a very, very, very clever person, very clever woman. And, you know, invariably very clever people know what they're doing. When they do something, whether positive or negative, they know exactly what they're doing at the time.
Right.
Right. So let's move down onto the next one, John. Next page. And I know that the information here is rather small. There's a lot on it. But what is important here is that when I analyze her full birth name, Amber Laura Heard, the numbers that are missing from her birth name are 4, 5, and 6. So these are her karmic lessons. So she has got 3 karmic lessons, the numbers 4, 5, and 6. Now, do you remember that just a few minutes earlier, when I unpacked her birth chart for you, I actually showed you that the numbers that defined her birth chart are 4, 5, and 6.
Mm-hmm.
So her birth chart brings her karmic lessons in a massive way, on a personal level, on a family or an intimate level, on a career level, and on a life path level. So
right.
that's massively significant. Now, because she has got 3 karmic lessons, John, and here we are just moving slightly up and to the left to her subconscious self, number 6. There it is. Well done. Your cursor's there. This tells you that what is her subconscious self? It's the number 6. So therefore, subconsciously, there really is this desire to love and to be loved, you know, et cetera, and everything that goes with the number 6: family, relationships, responsibility, matters of the heart, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But the thing is, there's very important lessons that she's got to learn around this. Now, let's take, for example, the year that we are in, John. And this is where number patterns and number synchronicities just fall into place so easily. 2022 is a number 6 universal year. So therefore, 2022, being a number 6, brings her number 6 karmic lesson into play. So that is family, relationships, responsibility, matters of the heart. It also brings her subconscious self number into play. So the thing is, this year, being charged by all the number 2s, 2022 has got 3 2s inside of it. Amber Heard is born on the 22nd, which has got 2 2s inside of it. There's this cocktail of numerical alignment happening. Therefore, it is not in the slightest bit random that everything that has happened to her, in order to try and help her and heal her around relationships, responsibility, family, love, matters of the heart, et cetera, has surfaced this year with and through this dreadful and soul-destroying trial between and lawsuit between her and Johnny Depp. It's not random in the slightest.
Right.
And now I want to come down to those salmon-colored blocks and have a look at her. There we go. Thank you. At her primary expression number, which is calculated according to her full birth name. So that's Amber Lara Heard. Total 65. 6 and 5 gives you 11. Now 11 is the master number. The master number 11 is how she would express herself. Okay, so let's pause for a moment. What does the number 11 do? The number 11 is the number of illumination. It lights up the darkness. So people who have the expression number or the master number 11 in their charts often experience a tremendous amount of anxiety, but they also illuminate the darkness inside of others.
Right.
So now just think about how awful things went between Amber Heard and Johnny Depp.
Yeah, pretty bad.
And as much as Amber Heard has been vilified in the press and painted as the villain and some of the most diabolically awful hashtags out there, you know, what we need to stop at this moment and appreciate is that through her master number 11, the master number of illumination, in other words, illuminating within the lives of other people what is wrong and what needs to be healed, she would have illuminated a hell of a lot or thrown a hell of a lot of light into the darkness of Johnny Depp's life, revealing a lot to him that would have been desperately unpleasant, especially around exes.
Yes.
Because there's no doubt that Johnny Depp has lived a life of exes. So when you put this together, and we're going to start getting there, you'll actually understand, and hopefully your audience will begin to understand, that their coming together is not random. They were absolutely meant to reveal everything about to each other, everything that is wrong about each other, in an attempt for them, once the split has happened, to go and try and actually heal and become better, more enlightened, more conscious human beings.
Okay.
Right, let's move on to the next page, please, John. Now, here it gets really, really interesting. Do you remember, John, that I spoke about 2012 being a karmic year?
Yes.
Because when you add her date of birth, which is 22 plus 4 plus 1986, you get 2012.
Yes.
Well, look at 2012 over there. 2012 is the year that she began dating Johnny Depp.
Wow.
And when I run my mathematical model, you can see that the number that defines or themes her year, which is that column of red numbers, is the large 15-6, right in the middle. Further up, John, 2012.
Yeah.
That's it. So in 2012, her karmic lesson presented in concentrated format. In other words, the 15-6 is there for only 1 year. You think this is random? I mean, why would she and Johnny Depp begin dating in 2012? Oh, says the world, this is just random. This is just how life happens. No. From the moment Amber Heard was born and from the moment Johnny Depp was born, it was coded into their life path that they would become an item in 2012, and that the purpose of their becoming an item would be to learn karmic lessons from each other. Johnny Depp is born in the month of June. So therefore, his family or intimate number is a 6. Amber Heard's subconscious self is a 6. Her karmic lesson is a 6. Look at how that's presented. So there it is. There are the numbers locking together. And what you can see, because the red block with a double 6 in 2012 is on the right, it represents emotional. In other words, this is the beginning of her number 6 karmic journey with Johnny Depp, starting emotionally, which is invisible. Now they go through all kinds of hell. And come down, John, to 2023, please. Look how the double six presents next year. The emotional, which is the invisible or the tangible, moves to the left, which is the physical or the tangible. There, the double six represents itself in 2023. And there you go. That is the end of her karmic journey with Johnny Depp, him being probably the greatest teacher to her in terms of relationships, responsibility, matters of the heart, love, and she probably being the greatest teacher to Johnny Depp in terms of excess. And why do I say that? Because Amber Heard has a number 5 life path. And as we saw in the previous slide, John, she's got a number 5 karmic lesson.
Yes.
Now, when I analyze Johnny Depp, now just pause for a moment, and I mean, how mind-blowing is this? The name Johnny totals 32, 3 and 2 gives you 5. The name Depp totals 23, 2 and 3 gives you 5. So his name Johnny and the surname Depp both carry the vibration number 5, which is one of Amber Heard's karmic lessons.
Right. Yes.
Around change, adaptability, freedom, the 5 senses. Are you with me? Living life large, almost, if you will, in a manner where there is no desire to take responsibility for your actions. Thinking that you're invincible, etc., etc. Number 5 is the human experience. Now, when you add Johnny and Depp together, 32 and 23, you get 55. So Johnny Depp's expression number, how he expresses himself into the world, is through the number 55. Now, I've just told you that the number 5 is the number of excess. Okay, the 5 senses, etc., etc. Challenging the status quo, thumbing your nose at societal norms, etc., etc. Well, how Johnny Depp expresses himself into the world is through a double 5. Right. So therefore, that's double excess, double rebel, double this, double that. So when Amber Heard saw Johnny Depp, it was just a candle, and she was a moth, and she was just drawn to this candle because everything about his mathematical blueprint had inside of it everything that she needed to learn in terms of her mathematical blueprint on a karmic level, and vice versa.
Wow.
Now, John, it's not random. I mean, look at this. Look at this life path data of Amber Heard. 2012, the year that they began dating, there's the extreme karmic lesson starting to present itself on an emotional level through the double 6, the red block on the right. Then they go through a journey, and the double 6 represents itself next year, which is the end of the karmic lesson for her. Now, John, I have seen this over and over and over and over in relationship numerology, relationship case studies that I've done. And this is why I say, often we get into a relationship and then the relationship falls apart and we can't understand it and other people can't understand it and families can't understand it and friends can't understand it. And everybody's judging us and we're judging ourselves. The honest to goodness truth is we as people are walking an intelligent matrix which has experiences coded into it, and we cannot avoid those experiences no matter what we do. The people who are going to be our greatest teachers and who are also going to be our greatest influencers. So it's not always negative. It can also be positive. They will come into our lives at exactly the perfect time. And if they're meant to exit our lives, they will exit at the perfect time. It's there. It's all happening according to our grand organized design. This is what I am absolutely obsessed with, is human futurology, because I truly believe that what you are seeing here is me presenting the first evidence in pretty basic format. I guarantee you in 10 or 15 years' time, the evidence that will be presented will make this really pale into insignificance. But this is the first cut revealing that we definitely have hard-coded mathematical blueprints.
Yes, this amazes me. And I've seen this for myself on a couple of occasions too. And again, it just really fits with my version of like the the fact that we do know when we come here, we have a plan. We know what we're trying to learn. We know what we've set for ourselves. So somehow at a higher level, this encoding takes place and it is available because, you know, you think the date of birth and the name you're given, it all feels like it was a random choice by your parents, right? Your date of birth, what were you a cesarean? You came 3 days earlier than you would have done, or you were, you know, whatever. There's a variety of things that affect that date. So it kind of it has a feeling of total randomness about it. But once you break it down into this mathematical blueprint, it kind of changes everything because you realize there is nothing random at all. And things present themselves. And it's our job to learn the lesson to move forward, because it's one of the things that really interests me that you said, Chris, is about, you know, say, for instance, the 22 master builder number, if we take that as the example. 22, it's an enormously powerful master builder number, but you have to follow the path of the master builder, right? Because if not, you drop into that lower octave, which is completely different, right? That's, to me, that I find that intriguing, because it doesn't mean it's an easy ride. If you've got a 22 or an 11, you've got a master number. But the fact is that if you don't learn the lesson you're intended to learn and to follow the path of the coding you've got, you drop into that lower octave, and that's where it really does go wrong.
Well, John, let's take the master number 22, which is the day that Amber Heard is born on. And I really hope that through some stroke of good fortune, either Johnny Depp or Amber Heard do actually get to see this video, because I think it would be tremendously beneficial to both of them, and to also really consciously connect with the fact that they are each other's greatest teachers. Yes. On a karmic level. And this may very, very well talk to karma that exists, you know, in past lives, deep spiritual entanglement that needed to sort itself out. But let's just have a look, John. And if you can focus on 2014 through to 2018, look in the string of red numbers there, the column of red numbers. From 2014 to 2018, the annual experience number, which is calculated through this mathematical model that I have generated, is directly linked to Amber Heard. So these are intensely personal years for her, because she's born on the 22nd. And I can tell you something, that even though she married Johnny Depp in 2015, you can see the red block over there with the 7 and the 4. And when 7 and 4 collide, it's not an easy energy. It's literally two very antagonistic numbers crashing together. So even though they married in 2015, you know, that was not an easy year for her, not an easy year by any stretch of the imagination. They divorced in 2017, but let's look further down. The 2022 again appears in her life path from 2029 through to 2032. Can you see that, John?
Yes.
There's that sequence appearing again.
Yes.
So the thing is, somebody like Amber Heard, and she's a very, very, very smart lady, if she had this information at her disposal, she would be looking at it and saying, hold on a moment, you know, what are the key lessons that I needed to extract around my journey so far in terms of the number 22, massive lessons which were learned during the period 2014 through to 2018, in order to make sure that I don't repeat them again when the cycle from 2029 through to 2032 appears. Yes. Now, the thing is, John, this is absolute genius, because you're suddenly able to look at your life path and you're able to see number sequences, and you're able to say, hold on a moment, there's the same number sequence repeating. You know, if I haven't learned my lesson, this is going to be the lesson representing itself to me all over again, just in a massively amplified format. And is that what I want? No, it probably isn't. So this is why I have said to you that the genius of this human futurology mathematical mapping that I'm doing is that it allows people to be able to intelligently look into their future using mathematical notation, and then actually see, hold on a moment, look at this event, that event, and then say, well, where does this present in my past? Oh, this is interesting. Aha, well, now I can begin to strategically, and notice the emphasis on the word strategically. I can begin to look at my life strategically in terms of thinking and planning through a completely different set of optics. And John, I am not aware of any research in the world right now that allows anybody this level of intelligence around who they are on a personal level.
Right.
I'm not saying that from a boastful perspective. I'm saying that from an intelligence perspective, because every single person should have this information at their disposal, working off it, working with it, working through it, etc., so that they can begin to optimize their journey with and through their numbers. Because this intelligent mathematical blueprint that we're revealing here in terms of Amber Heard, and which I unpacked, albeit in brief in the previous slides, John, this is the authentic self that all these life coaches are constantly prattling on about.
Yeah.
But when you say to them, well, what is my authentic self? They can't nail it for you.
Yeah.
But when your authentic self is presented in numerical format, and those numbers carry a story, and the story is intelligent, and the story is strategic, and the story is relevant, and the story is practical, now suddenly you can begin to connect with your authentic self on a level that you never dreamt possible.
Right. No, it's enormously powerful. Enormously.
So there it is. I mean, there is hard evidence of the fact that Johnny Depp he's been born in the month of June, which is the number 6 energy in the family and the intimate space. He was coded to be Amber Heard's karmic lesson. And there it is, starting in 2012, invisible and becoming visible and tangible, and if you will, in the physical realm in 2023, which is when everything basically comes to a head or is over between the two of them.
Wow.
It also shows a year when she is going to have to take tremendous responsibility, hence the 66, for her relationships. Now, John, can you go down a little bit further onto the next slide? And what is really important here, look at these pinnacles that basically define Amber Heard's year. So in 2022, we can see that 13-4 defines her life from the period of April through to June. Now, her and Johnny Depp's case is just wrapped up, not so.
Yeah.
Right, okay. Closing arguments have been made, that's it. Now they've got to wait the judgment. That karmic 13-4 that you see there, that defines her life during these 3 months that we're in, that's not random. Karmic 13 is the karmic octave of the master number 22.
Right.
So if as someone having the master number 22, if you have enriched yourself at the expense of others, if you have used others in a clinical and a cynical way to your own advantage, then when karmic 13 strikes, that is it. That is saying, according to the design of your life path, this is a moment of karmic comeuppance.
Right.
So therefore, John, it's not random that karmic 13, which again, I repeat, is the karmic octave of the master number 22, is in play right now when her and Johnny Depp's court case has been wrapped up and closing arguments have been made. Now, remember, on the previous slide, we saw the 66 in 2023 presenting.
Yes.
Okay, so what do? Again, I map her life. I drill further down. This is what I do, John. I drill. I'm like a deep sea drill, just drilling into data, drilling information, drilling into intelligence around people on their life path level. And there we see the 15-6 that defines the first quarter, January to March of her year 2023.
Yes.
Therefore, whatever her karmic comeuppance is going to be, it's going to be smashing home within the first quarter of 2023. There's the timeline. So you know, the thing is, John, here we are seeing astonishing intelligence. And this is not because I'm some, genius or whatever. It's just because I set about trying to understand my life and the construct of my life, because nobody else could help me really understand it in a way that I desired to, which is using data and numbers, logic, intelligence, etc., etc., etc. And I'm very grateful and thankful to my dad, because he was, sadly, he passed away at the end of last year. But being probably one of the most intelligent men I've ever met, and a mathematician and a physicist who had a love for numbers, he instilled inside of me the importance of being able to quantify and qualify what it is that you're talking about through numbers and not just through words. Mm-hmm. And there it is. Yeah. I mean, there's hard evidence, John. There's hard evidence of what Amber Heard is going to be facing over the next 9 months.
Yeah, it's fascinating. Again, enormously powerful. And I think this comes down to the fact that things don't happen by accident, right? There is that grand organized design. Everything falls into place. But free will exists on this planet. We have the opportunity to do the right thing. We have the opportunity to mess up. And, that's the fact of it, right? We're here to learn lessons. We typically don't get to see the answers in advance. We have to go through it. We have to suffer to some degree in order to work out what the underlying lesson is. And of course, we don't realize that for the most part.
You've just spoken about free will. So look at the nightmare that has taken place between Amber Heard and Johnny Depp. She has held up an incredibly powerful mirror to him about excess. He has been an astonishingly powerful teacher to her in terms of responsibility, relationship, matters of the heart. Love matters. Mm. That people are not just a throwaway entity for argument's sake. Mm. But the thing is, now that their karmic journey, which started in 2012, as you saw, and ends in 2023, is finished, both of them have the free will to then decide how they are going to handle what this journey has taught them. And you speak about doing the right thing and the wrong thing. You're absolutely right, John. But the thing is also, I think what we've got to remember is that from the moment we are born, there are people that are going to come into our lives for a reason. Mm. And they may only be in our lives for a season, but it is going to be something that we will never forget. And there is nothing that we can do to avoid that. It's absolutely, absolutely hard-coded. And again, John, I thank you, and I thank Elevated Planet for the platform through which I can present this kind of groundbreaking intelligence as to who and what we are as humans, and our life journey, and who are we, and why am I here, and this and this and this. And oh my goodness, I met this guy and I fell hopelessly in love with him. And 8 years later, we went through the most hideous divorce. Why? How could it have gone so south? Well, guaranteed, if you look at all of these things, you'll be able to see very similar patterns to what I've just revealed to you around Amber Heard and Johnny Depp. Mm-hmm. The thing is, when these incredibly important teachers come into our lives, in most instances, we are unable to appreciate the importance of the lesson and therefore emerge victorious because we don't understand.
Yes.
So therefore, instead of being the victor, we only harvest the negativity out of the relationship, and therefore we remain a victim.
Yes.
Hence the importance of the mathematical blueprints, what I'm revealing, etc., because, Amber Heard should now, if she had this kind of understanding and intelligence, and maybe Johnny Depp also, they should honestly be able to forgive each other with a tremendous amount of love and gratitude. for the experience, because hopefully they have now learned so much, experienced so much, that they can go away, process it, and become much better and more informed and more enlightened and more consciously aware human beings, which means that they can go into the next phase of their life in a much more developed state than they were when they got together.
Mm. This whole thing, it kind of throws the question of judgment as we see it on its head, right? Because when we look at certain things, things happen during our lives. Some of it's good, some of it's bad, but none of it's really by accident, right? And that's also, and I think this comes down to this karmic thing. When you come here and you have encoded into your numbers certain specific things that are going to happen to you, you don't know who it's going to be, you don't know how it's going to happen, but it's going to happen. And as you say, with hindsight, with the gift of this mathematical blueprint, you can look back and say thank you for something which was agonizing, but you needed to go through this. And you knew that before you came here. You just kind of forget about it as soon as you're born.
Let me introduce just a piece of work that I did, of healing work with a client who will obviously remain anonymous. Now, she was raised in a very, very religious family, Christians. And of course, it's no sex before marriage and this and this and this, all of those various principles. And well, lo and behold, guess what? She got pregnant. She got pregnant at about the age of 18. Now it's shock and shame upon the family. And obviously she feels the shame. Because she is feeling the shame, that is resonating through her entire body. If you think about the womb and the fact that the fetus or the baby is in a watery environment. What do we know? Watery environments amplify vibrations. Her vibration, which is this vibration of distress and trauma and all of this, is feeding into this environment, feeding into that fetus. It's a train smash.
Mm.
So for years, this woman carried such terrible shame, and she was scorned by her family.
Mm.
Christians, John, Christians.
Yes.
When I did her intelligent mathematical blueprint, her pregnancy appeared in her numbers perfectly. It was there, it was coded, it was meant to happen.
Yes.
So on the back of this, and this is where I absolutely challenge religion, I challenge religious structures, I challenge religious doctrines, I challenge all of those people who stand up in a pulpit and say, this and that, and this and that, and, sex before marriage, and this, it's all against these principles and that. Can you, according to this woman's intelligent mathematical blueprint, hold on a moment, grand organized design.
GOD.
Thank you, John. Thank you for picking up on that.
Mm.
According to her, that she was meant to give birth to this child in that year. She may have had sex with this chap maybe only once, bang a coconut.
Yes.
There you. But it was there. But because of their ignorance, ignorance, John, this family shamed her, scorned her, and set up as an emotional wiring inside of her that carried such distress that it defined and shaped the next phase of her life in such a negative way that truly the only way to say it is this woman her life was a living hell.
Yes.
And she sobbed and sobbed and sobbed and sobbed and sobbed. And it was almost like she couldn't quite connect with this truth that it was okay that she had fallen pregnant. It is okay that event had happened because it was coded as an event in her life. Now, John, if this is what is going on, I mean, I'm only scratching the tip of the iceberg.
Mm.
If her grand organized design had the birth of this child hard-coded into her numbers in that year, out of wedlock,
Mm.
How many other millions of women around the world isn't it happening to at the same time?
Yes.
How many of them aren't being scorned and spurned by their families because of ignorance,
Yes.
because of religious doctrine,
Yes.
because what has been fed into them as being the truth is in actual fact a lie?
Yes. Yes.
I'm really sticking my neck out here, John. But the thing is, this is why I come back to the very first part of our discussion. How much of the world that we are living in, of the life that we are leading, how much of it is an absolute lie that we are ignorant to because it has been convenient for those who know to keep us ignorant?
Yes, I agree entirely. That's one of the big learnings that I've had, certainly over the last couple of years, is the distorted conditioning and programming that we've been born into. It's not our fault that we are kind of stuck where we're stuck, because it's all we've known, because that's the way it was always designed to be. I like to think that whatever is coming up is going to seriously bring that to the forefront so that we can start to move into our own power and to realize the truth of what's going on, so that we can live better lives. Because it's only once you reach that stage you realize just how powerful we each individually are, way more than we have been given credit for through life, through the programming and conditioning tells us we're this big, when really we're that big.
Exactly.
And that's where I'd love to see some epiphanies going on that bring this. Now, it could be a painful experience that we're about to go through. But at the end of it, I'm convinced we are going to be better. There's a very, very, very small minority which will not be better off by their own standards, but a vast majority of us will be starting to align with what life is truly about.
Well, John, thank you for raising that. And maybe it is because I have Asperger's and a level of autism. Time is everything in my world, absolutely everything. So strangely, I wear two watches. A beautiful Breitling on my right wrist, because for me it represents the classic timepiece. And then I've got an Apple Watch on my left wrist because it represents technology and everything that is going on in that space. And it also helps me tremendously in terms of keeping order in my life. Mm-hmm. Do this, do that, do this, do that, do this, don't forget about this. And when you have Asperger's and autism, having your day ordered and repeating that kind of order is very important in terms of being able to feel that everything is okay. Otherwise, you feel like your life is a runaway train. And then with that comes tremendous anxiety. But the reason I'm raising the issue of time is it is actually time, John. Mm-hmm. And the thing that I fear the most is that through technology, which has now become so pervasive with everybody plugged into platforms all the time, it is actually almost easier now through technology to control us en masse than it was previously.
Yes.
Previously, people would go, for example, to church and they'd all walk out of there absolutely terrified to their molars. And that was it. The job of control had been done. But slowly the church's structures began to crumble. So what is the easiest way to control people now? Through technology. Mm. and through controlling the media. Mm. Sadly, I have got to a point in my life where I trust and believe very little of what is being put out there. I literally question absolutely everything because I am not unconvinced that there isn't an enormous global agenda that is taking place. And here people say, oh, there it goes. That's it. Now there's the nutcase coming through. Well, that's fine. If you want to think I'm a nutcase, you're welcome to think I'm a nutcase. But how is it that this nutcase has unpacked and unraveled an intelligent mathematical design around human beings, which, as you've just heard, is absolutely poised to completely bring about a revolution in terms of how we think about our lives, the construct of our lives, etc., etc. John, and again, I'll come back to this book. Are you telling me that I'm the only one alive that knows this? I find that very hard to believe. I just think that as a result of my Asperger's and my autism, I have been able to tap into a cosmic intelligence and understand this, and therefore bring it to people's attention maybe far earlier than the powers that be around the world would like this to happen.
Right.
But it's not going to stop me.
No, and rightly so. The suppression, the level of suppression is enormous across, governments, across, the populations. This is the stuff that's going to be coming to the fore. I hope so, anyway.
And remember, John, I think as we begin to wrap up this chat, remember that 2022 is only getting started. When it clicks over next month, it's getting started.
Right.
Next month, June, is a number 6 month. June is the 6th month of the year. We're in a number 6 universal year, 2022. Everybody with 6s in their charts, this is when things are going to start to get very, very, very real. People that are born on the 6th or the 15th or the 24th, people that are born in the month of June, people that have a number 6 as the career number, people that have a number 6 life path. This is when things are going to seriously get choppy. This is, if you will, the 6 to 8 foot waves making way for the tsunami that is coming in. And this is going to happen on a global level. It's got to happen. So I believe that we are going to see chaos in the next 6 months, the likes of which we cannot even begin to fathom.
Wow.
And that in turn, hopefully through videos like this, which I genuinely hope go viral, will get people thinking in a different line and asking questions in come 2023, searching for new truths. But the thing is, and I stress this, John, we are in a dark cycle. The cycle began in 2017, and it will begin to wash out in 2025. 27, a number 1 year, 2025, a number 9 year. That's the beginning and the end of the number line.
Mm-hmm.
And because we're in a dark cycle, there is an enormous amount that's got to play out. Take, for example, China's leader, Xi Jinping. He's born on the 15th of June. He's got a number 3 life path, which means he's got a number 6 shadow life path. You watch from next month, you're going to start seeing things, and in the months that follow, you're going to start seeing very, very interesting and dramatic things happening around the leader of China. It's got to be. Because 15, the day he's born on, is a 6. June is a 6. His shadow life path, emotions, is a 6. 2022 is a 6. There's so much synchronicity. Everybody's been talking Biden and Putin and this and Zelensky, et cetera, et cetera. Well, you watch this space, you are going to suddenly see an enormous amount happening around, with and through Jinping, because it has to, because there are his numbers. That's what the blueprint demands. So it's fascinating. And I think, John, I look forward to hopefully coming back many times this year and having these kind of engaging discussions with you to hopefully really spark a different line of thinking in your audience. And it is my greatest desire that they take these videos and circulate them onto friends, et cetera, so that this message really gets out there and gets out quickly, because people need to understand what is happening.
Yes. Yeah, no, I'm with you 100%, Chris. I'm very grateful for the time that you put aside for us, the amount of research that you do, for being the person you are, because, I think that your time is now, right? Your time is coming, because I agree with you that the suppression thing, there are those out there who know this stuff, but they won't let it go, or they won't let it out, right? This is something that many don't want to be put forward, but it's our job to do this. This is how you elevate the planet. This is how you bring this stuff out into the open. and you share it. You share it because everybody on this planet, I look at it, we have 7.95 billion people on this planet right now. I counted them the other day. And I see everybody as like an individual piece on the jigsaw. It's a 7.95 billion piece jigsaw. And everybody has a role to play within this. The fact is that so many pieces of that jigsaw are so dumbed down, we don't realize what life is truly all about. So we've got to get to that stage where we can bring that form of enlightenment that, yeah, I feel that I've been blessed to come, this has come through me in the last few years, but I had 58 years of that little life, of that not realizing any of this. And it so opens your mind. And I completely empathize with those who don't get this, because this was me not that long ago. But anyway, Chris, I'm going to say again, I'm really grateful. Thank you.
And once again, thank you to you and Elevated Planet, John.
And thank you again to our Elevated Planet community. And we look forward to catching up with you again very soon. Thank you.